Sometimes I feel like the whole world is in my hands. And then other times I'll feel like my life is being taken from me. I can't think straight. I can't function.
And I'm like, whose hamstring is tight? It wasn't mine. Someone else was dehydrated, so I'd make the whole class drink.
Every time she would text me, I would get pain in my teeth. We did a root canal. We removed the nerve. 2 weeks later, I'm getting pain in the same tooth.
I had a relationship, and I would have dreams before he would text or call. And I explained to him, I need you to send an email, because that's at least one more layer of protection.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Uriel. It's good to see you. How are you?
Pretty good. Doing wonderful. So this is an amazing meeting. I was going through Best Holistic magazine, and I see my article there. And the next thing I notice is your article about empathy. So it was in the middle of the night. It was like 11:30 at night. I pick up my phone. I'm like, I'm going to text her. This is an amazing thing. I love talking about empathy. I love hearing things about empathy. And I said, Theresa might be the person that would be perfect for a podcast. So I send you a text, and here we are. Here we are. It was like 3 days ago.
Miracles, man. People, I think when you put out what's on your heart, what's in your spirit, and you do it in a sense of service, you never know what shows up. And this is one of those cool things that showed up. Somebody of like mind who is interested in the same things, who comes at empathy, but just from a different angle. I love that.
So I want to say something to our viewers. What is empathy as a whole? A lot of people, I think, don't know what empathy is. Do you want to go ahead and tell us your understanding of empathy so we can share it to the viewers?
Absolutely. So I'm going to compare and contrast it. It's like I'm in literature class, right? So there's pity, there's sympathy, there's empathy, and then there's compassion. And empathy is, I like the old adage, it's walking a mile in someone else's shoes. And it's understanding from their perspective kind of what they feel or what they see. The other feelings sometimes come as a result of you have walked in someone's shoes, you sense what they feel, and you might feel sympathy or pity. And those are, in my mind, lower level emotions. But then we also get to compassion, where it's this version of, I see you, kind of like an avatar, right? I see you, and I may not understand exactly what you're facing, but I deeply, deeply care. I think that's kind of my version of empathy. It's an understanding and a caring. How would you define it?
So for me, I'll go back to how it started for me. I started to feel other people's emotions, feelings, thoughts. Sometimes they were happy. Sometimes they were just out of nowhere. I would feel so energetic. I would feel like the whole world is in my hands, and then other times I would feel like my life is being taken from me. I feel like I'm drained, like something's coming, something's holding me down. I can't think straight. I can't function. I don't want to do anything. I feel lazy. So at some point back then, when it first started, I don't think empathy was even a thing. People didn't know what the heck it was. You go to the doctor, they'll say, oh, you need antipsychotics,
Those voices in your head, they're not real.
So I was able to connect empathy to people. Going back over 20 years, I would get like a text message or an email from someone, and it would shift my mood without me seeing the message, right? So I was able to connect it to people. So I feel empathy is like a transfer of energy between people. And for some reason, some people are able to absorb it. And some people are, I wouldn't say they're careless, but they're just oblivious to it. It comes through. I think everybody's empathic, but some people are really, really like oblivious to the energy where they're not paying attention. So where did your empathy start? How did you figure out you were empathic?
No, when did I not? I started as a kid. I used to sense feelings and be able to, there's a great book, Blink, and part of it is our brain. We can translate information really quickly. And I grew up in a home with a really angry and negative father. So I was able to feel the energy of whatever was happening. And it was a safety mechanism. It was a survival instinct because I needed to know, do I need to protect myself? Am I safe? And starting to pick up other people's feelings. I'd say the first time that I distinctly remember was protecting a kid In fourth grade, I moved to the United States, and these kids were going to beat up. This boy was going to beat up this other younger, slower kid. And in my heart, I was like, I was so upset and got into my a physical fight to protect this other kid. And I think there was this empathy of like, no, I feel this kid's feelings, and he couldn't do anything about it. He was scared. So, me, I'll do it. I was scrawny or whatever. But I think for me, empathy has always been almost like a safety mechanism, being able to translate and feel and then decide what to do or not to do.
So what would you say, in your opinion, like the biggest place I've noticed empathy is in relationships, right? Relationships between partners, between kids and parents, relationships with your boss or your coworkers. That's where I feel at least my clients have shared, like they struggle with like energies at work. They struggle with being drained at home with their children. What would you say is the best way to deal with these kind of situations, like from your perspective? Like, how can we help people today experience like a change? What would we do?
I love what you said before about draining, and you couldn't think straight and can't function, and someone else can shift your moods. I've started teaching kids as young as 4 and 5 how to deal with this sensitivity. And okay, let me ask, I'll do this as a little experiential thing. What is a food that you just do not like or you're allergic to?
I mean, I eat everything.
Okay.
But there's probably like, I don't like seafood.
Seafood?
Like, yeah.
Okay, and when you eat seafood, how do you feel? Or if you think about seafood, how do you feel?
I can't even.
Yeah, I can't. So we painted people in our world, I don't even know, 10, 15 years ago as toxic. That's toxic. They're toxic. This is toxic. But we all walk around with this energy field, and there are going to be certain people that are like seafood to you. For me, it's cilantro. Y'all, I hate cilantro. It tastes like soap. I thought everybody was eating soap for the longest time. I thought y'all were insane eating cilantro, but I don't like it. But that doesn't mean that someone else's energy is going to be cilantro to you or seafood to you or me. We have that different ability in our energy fields to, when we connect with someone else, they might give us energy, they might give us synergy, like we have all these ideas and we want to share things. That's like this good synergy. Whereas if you're in a conversation or a relationship and you're like, I can't anymore, that's your cilantro, that's your seafood. But instead of painting other people with this one label, I like to think of it, it's toxic to me. This conversation, this relationship, this workplace is toxic to me, to my energy. And then in that moment, Uriel, this is what I love about it. You can take your power back. Because otherwise, if you're just in, they're toxic, you can't do anything except remove yourself, which is a good idea. But if you suddenly realize this doesn't work for me, how can I? What can I do? Remove myself. What do you do when someone's draining your energy? How do you change or shift?
So I'll tell you like this. I feel like there's many types of empaths.
Good. I'd love to hear that.
Like there's some empaths who are extremely sensitive. There's some empaths that are they're surrounding sensitive, meaning like they're like environmentally affected by it. In other words, if they're not happy that day, their empathy is higher, right? So for me personally, like I can be sitting and working and just focusing on my thing, and suddenly I'm also visual. I'll see it come through. I'll see the energy entering, and I'll say to myself, I'm having some kind of, and I'll start to see a shift in my feelings, in my emotions, in my thoughts. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I know who I am. This is the number one thing. This is the most important thing I think that our viewers will benefit. That took me a long time is know yourself, study yourself, know that, are you energetic? Are you like a loving person? Are you a giving person? Are you inspiring? Like all those things. Are you like talented in something? If that disappears, if suddenly that like is out of your system, you're not yourself. You're being empathically transferred. And I think that's what I start doing right away is I close my eyes, I separate myself from wherever I am. I go into my own room or whatever it is, and I start to just breathe. And as you breathe, you start to release that energy out of your system because you know that's not yourself. Now, it gets deeper when you connect it to a person. Are you able to connect it to a person? Like, does it allow you to do that?
Sometimes, and I'll have to say, is this mine or someone else's? And the minute I start asking that question, if it's someone else's, I can do similar to what you're saying. I can kind of package it away and then send it love and light, return to sender, back to them. But if I think it's me, and I love all of this because you're saying, know you who you are. So when something else jumps into you energetically or feeling, it doesn't feel like you. And how many people walk around going, I just don't feel like myself? Well, you might have picked up some stuff from other people. But for me, I can usually recognize that it is from a situation or a person. And once I do that, I'm able to objectively sort of remove it from my energy and then send it light and send it away.
So one thing I will note is, and this I think is like a gigantic thing, when people get emotionally invested into someone, like they get like, your partner, it could be a friend, it could be somebody at work. Once you get emotionally invested, right, where envy, jealousy, ego plays a role, that is the biggest transfer of empathy that occurs. Most of my clients, most of my experience with empathy is if someone is jealous, envious, or sending like hateful thoughts, they're just sitting there and they're just like, whatever it is, they're sending out that energy. There's a transfer that occurs from them to you. And we're sitting here, we're getting bombarded. We're like, whoa, this is like, World War III. And if you get a person that's fixated, that like doesn't know how to stop, and they get like fixated on you, that empathy can go on for months. It can go on for months. It literally can go on for months. So that is the biggest thing I would tell people is, if you have a person that has not such great energy, that's jealous of people, that's toxic, they're always talking about negative things, they're going to affect you eventually. That's going to be you. You're going to be that target. So when you get into relationships, friendships, co-workers, keep an eye of who they are in the beginning before you give them that opening. Like, what do you think of that?
Oh, amen. And you've got such great stuff on your channel about learning who people are. And I've been a professional martial artist and self-defense instructor for several decades. And part of self-defense is like, are these people safe for me? You can only see that over time. That will tell you who to trust, because anyone with, I call it disordered empathy, sociopaths, any kind of psychopathy, narcissist, they can shift their energy to feel really interested and interesting and emotionally connected, but it's not real. And over time, it's exactly what you might see. I think what you were talking about in the whole idea of emotional investment, then we get attached. There's some kind of attachment. And the Buddhists will often say, suffering happens through attachment, especially negative attachment. When you see the behavior of someone else, so let's say Uriel and I are hanging out and we have a third person join us and they're like just complaining about everybody and everything, eventually it's going to be about us. And that's one of the keys. How do people talk about others? How do people talk about their relationships? How do people talk about their feelings? And if they're always throwing someone else under the bus or blaming someone else, we're next. That's always been my biggest red flag. Somebody is gossiping, I'm next. I don't often think, oh, I'm on the inside, this is great. No, I am coming. That's going to happen to me at some point, because that's what that person will do.
So you touched on so you said like narcissists, right?
Uh-huh.
What I've learned is narcissists tend to send out the most worst energy. There's another thing is, I feel like when a person gets like that aggressive energy, like narcissism is more like an aggression, right? It's like a control thing. And what would you say is the best way to deal with like something like that? Once you get like a person who's fixated, a person who's, you're in a relationship with them, what would a person do?
Get out of Dodge, unless they're your family. Then you've got to learn how to draw boundaries. There's a psychological concept of gray rock, which narcissists have I call it disordered empathy, because something in their brain or their energy field is different, and they like to suck the light out of other people. So you might see a shiny, happy person and want to bring them down. A narcissist would want to take that energy for themselves because they don't have it in them. They don't have that lightness. They don't have that sweetness. The best thing to do is get out of Dodge, like remove yourself. That's my favorite boundary. If that's not possible, stop feeding into the drama. Because narcissists love them some drama. And I often think it's like a fight. It's like an energy, right? Drama is its own energy source. And then eventually it burns itself out if you don't feed it. So stop feeding the narcissist. Stop being a gray rock. Is like, yeah, okay, got it. Draw boundaries. Take care of yourself. Whenever I have to go see my family and my father is there, I have to be caffeinated. I've had a nap. I've worked out. I've meditated. I have to be my centered version of myself. And then I just limit the amount of contact that I have with him because he's just so negative and draining. And he's not been tested, but my guess is he probably would be narcissistic.
So,
MPD.
You said something amazing. So to maintain, this is, I think we both know as empaths, to maintain this energy, we have to do exactly what you mentioned is we have to feel good. We have to exercise. We have to eat healthy. We have to surround ourselves with happy people. We have to inspiring people that bring out our positive traits. And I think that there's a place where people feel like they're okay with allowing certain people into their life, into their space, but people have choice. They have choice that you can make a decision of who's allowed into your corner, so to say. And I think that unhappiness within somebody's heart, right? If somebody's unhappy themselves, empathy goes higher for those people. So our own happiness within ourselves, I think determines what kind of energy we're also attracting, right? And the most important thing that over the years that I've learned is I cut people out that I start seeing drain my energy. Like if I feel like, even it could be a client, right? If I feel like they're getting, anytime I'm getting a text and I feel like they're like I'm gonna die, right?
Not dramatic at all. I love it.
Yeah, I literally feel like my whole life. I've had a client once, and I put this down in my book, right? Every time she would text me, I would get pain in my teeth. So I went to the dentist, and I'm like, and he's my friend, and I said, this tooth is killing me. It's a root canal. I'm like, I can't sleep at night. I'm like, it's killing me. So he looks at it, and he's like, there's nothing there. It looks fine. And at that same time, I was getting energy, right? I said, bring something to test. So he brought this cold metal piece. I don't know what dentists do. And he put it on the tooth, and I jumped up. And he said, this is the biggest anomaly I've seen in my entire life. And we did a root canal. We removed the nerve. 2 weeks later, I'm getting pain. I'm getting pain in the same tooth.
Oh no.
I show back up to that dentist. He puts that metal thing right on my tooth again. Guess what? I jumped right back up.
There's no nerve.
There's no nerve. And he said to me, is something here. This guy's, that was the most fascinating thing I've ever, experienced. And I learned back then, I said, there is a transfer of energy occurring. There's something that we need to be cognitive about. And I educate all my clients that, hey, you could have chest pains, you could have panic attack, you could have heartburn, you could have all kinds of issues within your body that are not yours. They're not yours. So your level of sensitivity matters. But a typical person, if you notice nowadays, how many people are depressed? How many people are anxious? How many people can't sleep? How many people take medication every single day? They're dependent on it. Why? Because there is an empathic transfer of energy that's occurring in real time, and people they don't know. So that's why when I saw your ad, your magazine interview, I said to myself, I'm like, we have to educate people. We have to inform people. What do you think?
Oh my gosh. So when I was teaching kickboxing a lot, I was teaching fitness, kickboxing, and martial arts, I would start to feel my hamstring. And I'm like, all right, whose hamstring is tight? But I know my body and I know my feelings. I was like, this is someone else's hamstring. Who's dehydrated? Somebody is dehydrated. And my students got used to knowing that I would pick up whatever was happening and I would usually call it out and monitor for it. But I was lucky enough to know it wasn't mine. My hamstring was fine. I was picking up someone else's hamstring energy. I wasn't dehydrated. I was picking up that someone else was dehydrated. So I'd make the whole class drink just because, water is good for us too. And I find it fascinating that it's tooth, which could also be mouth, which is like, I'm not speaking up to the client saying, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to. And I love like what that tooth represents too. It's so fascinating. I had a relationship and the guy I was married to, definitely toxic to me. And whenever I would have dreams before he would text or call, and I explained to him, I need you to send an email because that's at least one more layer of protection, because texting and calling was just too jarring for me. And a few years later, he'd reached out for some reason and he said, I know you said I'm toxic to you. And I said, you know what? Actually, I feel okay. We can go to lunch. Whatever happened, whether he did his work, and he signed up for spiritual classes after we broke up, but it was all of a sudden that relationship changed. Now we're not in each other's lives, but I was able to go, nope, I'm okay. We can have that conversation. How did you then equate your tooth to your client? I'm super curious.
So I knew I got a text, right, while I was in the dentist chair, and from one of my clients. And it was an older lady, and I said it's strange. I'm like, she texts me a lot. I'm like, let me, and I got on a call with her, and I said, let me just ask you a strange question. Like, do you have any kind of teeth pain? And she said she's had nerve pain for over 30 years. And I said, oh, well, that explains everything, and that's, I've always been able to connect it to the people since like then, especially. But that was like an impressive connection. And you have to, at some point, what I've realized is certain frequencies aren't easy to link up to. Not everyone is meant to connect with you. Not everyone is meant to be in your circle, right? So, for example, your ex, if you think about it, something changed about him.
Sure.
Nothing changed about you, something changed within him towards you where the energy is no longer draining, right? Over and over again, I can't stress it enough. When there's jealous thoughts, when there's some kind of anger within a person, when there's some kind of frustration, that energy will transfer over. It's not transferring over for no reason. That means that person somewhere in their heart has something against you or something that they're taking from you that your aura can't handle.
Okay, you are nuts and awesome, because that is exactly the relationship. He was angry, he was jealous, he tried to be controlling. I'm not that good at being controlled. And that was what created that toxicity. You are bang on. Absolutely.
Yeah, let me ask you this. So tell us more about like how you teach martial arts, right? Or at least at some point. What do you see in people who are more confident about their, if they have more confidence there versus the people who have less confidence? Do you see them like energetically thriving more or less, or how does it work?
I do. I see people as lights, and some lights are smaller and they're more constricted, and they might be a little bit more reticent or shy. Doesn't mean that they don't have a lot of light. They're just not interested in sharing it. And that's okay. It doesn't mean extrovert or introvert. I've also seen people with a huge light. You can just sense, and look at my body positioning, right? Like I'm shoulders are back and I'm allowing my heart to open. And I'll just take a tangent really quick. We think to protect ourselves, we have to armor our heart. I will tell you the exact opposite. And as somebody who has 8 black belts, it might be okay to listen to me. This needs to be open, because our hearts and our love will show us who is for us and who isn't for us. We think, oh, I'm gonna hold this down. I'm gonna harden this. I'm gonna armor. No, that armor only hurts us. When we have these live, open, lit up hearts, it'll show us where we need to go. So when I teach martial arts, I will often look at posture. And I mean, look at the way you're sitting. It's so beautifully aligned. And there's a huge alignment in that. It's like your chakras can all pick up energy. But when we are unaligned, we might be smaller. We might be slightly different. And learning how to live in your body, learning how to own the space that you're in. That's the difference. Now, I will also say I've seen people with a facade, and maybe you've seen these people in our world. They put out this very positive seeming energy. They put out this love and light. The first article that I wrote that went viral was the pseudo spirituality. And it's people who will put out a pretend. It's like this pretend frequency. It's like they're not real. They're just like love and light, and that energy. Ooh, that one's tough for me too, because it just has that feel to it. Have you noticed that? Have you run across that?
Yeah. So some people they're like full of life, right, on the outside, and you start talking to them and you get close to them, and some reason you start to feel that drainage. You start to feel that vibration dropping. I think overall a person needs to be cognitive. For our viewers, right? What do you need to do to first of all sense like who's toxic, who's not, who's draining, who's not? Pay attention in the first couple of weeks, like how you feel, because when you're getting close to someone at first, especially in the dating scene, and whatever relationship it is, it could be even with coworkers. You're getting close, you're getting to know them. Look at how they treat others. Look at how their heart is. Are they givers? Are they takers? Are they looking to, are they like caring? Are they asking you, how are you doing? How are you feeling? You're going to sense empathy in people. You're going to sense that love. You're also, this is, I think, the most remarkable thing that I've learned. Whatever we are within our own heart, because our heart center, our heart chakra, attracts to us what we are. So if you're a loving, giving, happy, non-egoistic, humble person, you're going to attract that same energy to yourself. But if you have something inside you that has something bitter, something unsettled, something broken, some kind of lack, you're going to attract that lack. And this is the key, I think, to all our viewers. Don't attract to yourself something that's broken inside of you. Fix that part of yourself. What do you think of that?
Well, shadow work, right? And it's funny, I was doing this weekend, I'm looking at, okay, what are the parts of me that maybe I don't love as much as the other parts? What are the parts of me that I judge, right? Judgment is such a criticism, self-criticism. My TED Talk is on the inner bully, and it's what happens in our bodies and our energy when we beat ourselves up. But if there are parts of ourselves that we struggle with, we're going to get that same message back. If I feel unworthy, I'm going to get the message back that I'm not worthy. If I feel less than prosperous, I'm going to get that. And and here's one of my big ahas. It is not because the universe is mad at us, not because God is mad at us. God loves us so much. The universe loves us so much that it's showing us these blocks. When we want something, when we want to achieve or have, say it's a magnificent relationship or it's unlimited abundance, when that's not happening, there's something to pay attention to. There's something to look at. And that's the only reason it comes up. Most people in the spiritual realm treat blocks as if they're bad and wrong. And I'm like, no, it's information. It's such good information, because your block is the key to what's next for you. Your block is the key. The universe is showing you where to go with it. And I also feel like there might be echoes, right? Like a resonance. Say you used to have a particular belief, or you felt broken at some time, and then someone might come into your circle that's like, hey, are you going to attach to this energy? And then you can decide. But the thing that you said, pay attention. Awareness is the key that unlocks that door. So many empaths will believe that they're the victim of that feeling. Like, oh, I just pick up everybody's feelings. You can do what you need to do with it. We were created with all these open feelings. We were also created with boundaries. Our skin is my favorite boundary. It keeps all my gushy stuff on the inside. Like, boundaries is a part of everything that we do. So not only were you created with this beautiful gift, and I liken it to, people who have super senses of smell or super hearing or have an ability to pick up languages. Well, empathy is just one of those senses. It's not one of the five that you can't see smells. You can't see feelings, but you know they're there. And learning how to work, just like what you're saying, learning how to work with your empathy in doing the grounding, separating yourself, going to your own room, everything that you said, being able to look at it objectively that helps us look at, who have I attracted into my life? Are they here to show me something? Or are they an old resonance that doesn't work for me? And if that's the case, love them and let them go. Send them love, send them light, and let them go. In my estimation, any kind of negativity that we create comes back to us. And I always try to make a positive impact and push out that positive energy. And if I'm starting to feel gross or negative, oh my gosh, I'll tell you a story. I was dating one guy, and all of a sudden I started to feel like I wasn't enough around him. And I got this feeling in the pit of my stomach, like I got all insecure, and that's not who I am. This was 20 years ago. And I kept thinking, what is going on? Why do I feel insecure? Why do I feel? And I realized they're a cord or a draining or whatever, who he was just not going to work for me. And he liked making me feel insecure because I appear so confident and strong, and he enjoyed watching me struggle and giving me doubt. And I was like, that is not the relationship that I want in my life. So we learn through everybody that comes through our doors, our heart doors or our people doors.
For sure. And sometimes there are situations like, and I hear this from a lot of clients, where they're like in a divorce, in separation, or a parent, where energy comes through that debilitates them. They can't function. Like that anger that comes through certain people, and I've experienced it with some people's energy that comes through. It's debilitating. It stops your progress. It stops your thoughts. It stops you from being innovative. It stops you from like your manifestations. It's like a financial block at some point. It's whoever's energy is coming through, right? If they're envious, if somebody's sitting there and saying, wow, this person is doing so good, they're doing so good, and they're fixated on you, that's going to start creating some barriers. So I always advise people, you got to cut those people out. You have to remove the toxic people. And some people are oblivious as well. They're like, I'm drained. I'm constantly having issues by having that person in my life, but I'm just not going to remove them. I'm going to stay in this relationship.
What if you can't, Uriel? What if you are co-parenting with someone who's got narcissistic tendencies? What if your parent, what if your relatives, or how would you suggest to your clients?
This is the biggest problem, I feel like. And there's more of the time than not, it's a past lifetime thing, right? It's past lifetime debt or connection, where that person is in your life for some kind of unfinished business. That separation, that divorce or whatever breakup is there for a reason. That means there's already, the universe is showing you that, hey, this person shouldn't be with you, right? That happened. So now next step is when the kid turns 18 or whatever it is, you're like, listen, we're done. You're blocked, you're out, and once you do that, you're not coming back with that person again in this lifetime. You can't change, and I say this to people, you can't change personalities and characters. Once a person is a certain way, if they're evil, if they're angry, there's some kind of spiritual consciousness within them, within their body, that creates that energy. They have to change that. We can't change that. This is the biggest mistake empaths make, is even in abusive relationships, people say like, oh, I want him to change, or I want her to change. They're not going to change. You got to change. And that change means disconnection. Now, a parent might be draining you, right, by thinking of you, especially as they get older and they're like fixating and they don't know that they're fixating. That gets a little tough. They're toxic and they're just snowballing. So I always tell people, pray to God, build that connection with the light. God is the only power, right, with the angels and the ancestors, that can actually shift that connection. They can change the mind from the upper world of that person from fixating on you, because doing it on your own, fixating, thinking about it 24/7, there's also something called like a cycle. When you think of someone, this is a big thing in relationships. You think of someone, they think of you. They think of you, you think of them. They think of you, and it's just going in a circle. So now a toxic relationship continues even after a breakup, because you're waking up and you're saying, what is this person doing? They're thinking, oh, what is this person doing? And then you're like, oh, they never leave me alone. But you're causing that.
Right.
You're familiar with that, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And I find this fascinating too. If you have, like, let's say you're in a breakup and you're on a healing journey and you're feeling really good and you're not thinking about that person, and all of a sudden you can't stop thinking about them. Empaths, y'all, we pick it up. They might be thinking about you and you're picking it up. And I've had so many clients who were like, oh, that makes so much sense. Because the client is like, I'm paying attention. I'm everything you've said. I'm aware. I'm watching what I'm thinking. And all of a sudden I can't stop thinking about that person. It might be because they're thinking about you.
100%. Well, Theresa, it's been amazing, right? I'd love for you to, I want to just tell the viewers that we wanted to do this today because we wanted to literally bring light to the world. We wanted to show empaths that there are ways to shield yourself. There's ways to protect yourself. You're not alone. You're not alone. If you're struggling to give up, you can reach out to either Theresa or myself. We're here. I'm an energy healer. I've been doing energy healing for over 20 years. Theresa, she'll tell you a little bit more about herself and how to reach her.
I'm a mindset and boundaries specialist, and I help people unlock their inner power and stop doing what doesn't work. A lot of times empaths we morph. We become people pleasers. We become fixers. We become, you name it. We will morph our chameleon into it. And that's not who we are. And both of us are here to share that there are different ways. Your ability to be an empath is a superpower. You just might need someone to help you along the path and learn how to let go of what's disempowering you and taking your power away and get you back on that path to where you are fully yourself. Uriel, I can't thank you enough for reaching out and reading that article on me being a recovering empath, which we didn't even talk about what that looks like, but next time. Stay tuned.
Yeah. We got to do something again. How can they reach you, Theresa? How can people reach you?
So my website is theresabyrne.com, just spelled like my name.
Okay.
Theresa, Byrne.com.
Perfect. Awesome. So thanks everyone for watching us. We'll definitely we'll be back. We'll do something else. Have a wonderful day. It's been amazing, and we'll hope to hear from you again.
Thank you all.